My wife looked me in the eyes and told me she felt unsafe in our own house because of something her sister said about me. 3 days later, I was locked out of my life while rumors about me started spreading everywhere. And that's when I realized this wasn't just a misunderstanding, it was a setup. My name is Ryan Carter. I'm 34 years old, a project manager for a commercial construction company in Ohio. I've always been steady, reliable. I believe in paying bills early, keeping my word, and protecting what I build. That's how I approached marriage too. My wife is Emily. She's 32. We've been together 11 years, married 7. Her younger sister, Madison, has been around since the beginning. And maybe that's the problem. When I first met Emily, she was calm and grounded. The kind of woman who didn't need attention to command a room. Madison was the opposite. Loud, flirty, always asking questions that crossed a line. The first time I had dinner at their parents' house, Madison wouldn't stop. How much do you make? Do you work out? Have you ever cheated? We all laughed. Emily called her immature. I believe that. Over the years, Madison stayed close. Too close. She texted me memes instead of sending them to Emily. Sat next to me at family dinners. Laughed too hard at my jokes. Always had a boyfriend, never for long. Emily never seemed bothered. She's just dramatic, she'd say. Maybe. Or maybe she was watching. 3 years into our marriage, Emily and I bought a house. Nothing flashy. Just ours. I handled the finances. Not to control anything. Emily hated dealing with numbers. She'd say, "You're better at that." So I managed the mortgage, savings, retirement accounts. We had a joint account. She had her own credit card. I never questioned her spending. I thought I was building security. Madison started coming over more after we moved in. Sunday dinners turned into late nights. One night, Emily went upstairs early with a migraine. Madison stayed in the kitchen while I cleaned up. She leaned against the counter. "You're a good husband, Ryan." "Thanks." "Emily doesn't appreciate you." I stopped wiping the counter. "She does. She complains about you," Madison said. "Says you're controlling." The word hit me harder than it should have. I asked Emily about it the next day. She looked confused. "I never said that." Madison exaggerates. I let it go, but something had shifted. After that, Emily started making comments. "It's weird you don't share all your accounts. Most married couples don't keep walls. It makes me feel like you're planning an exit." Planning an exit? I laughed it off. But she didn't. "At Christmas," Madison said loudly, "I could never be with a guy who controls all the money." Her eyes flicked to me. Emily stayed quiet. Then a rumor surfaced. A friend told Emily I'd been too friendly with a woman at a work conference. The woman was a 50-year-old client. I showed Emily everything. Messages, emails, nothing inappropriate. She stared at my phone and said, "Madison warned me." "Warned you about what?" "That men who guard their money usually guard other things too." It sounded rehearsed. Like a script. 2 weeks later, Emily asked for full access to all my accounts. Not just viewing. Managing. I should be able to move money if I need to. There's a joint emergency fund. That's not the point. "If you don't give me access," she said, "it says something about how you see me." I understood then. This wasn't about money. It was about leverage. I said no. Calmly. Her face hardened. "Then maybe I shouldn't be here." 3 days later, she asked me to leave. Said she needed space. Said she felt unsafe. Unsafe. That word cut deep. I stood in our bedroom while she packed a bag for me. "Madison thinks this is best," she said quietly. There it was. Madison thinks. Not we think. I left that night and checked into a hotel across town. The next morning, my phone exploded. Text from Madison. "You're pushing her away. If you loved her, you'd prove it." Then she posted something vague online. "Some men use money to control. Protect your sister." Comments poured in. Support. Sympathy. No names mentioned. But everyone knew. Emily's friends unfollowed me. A cousin asked if everything was okay. The narrative was forming without me. I went back to talk. Emily wouldn't let me inside. "I need time," she said. "Time for what?" "For you to decide if you can be a real partner." "Is this coming from you?" I asked quietly. "Or from Madison?" "Don't drag my sister into this." But she already was. A few days later, Emily's mom called. "She says you're controlling," she told me gently. The word was spreading. Like smoke. That night, I checked our joint account. A large transfer request was pending. Initiated from a shared device. Madison had been staying at the house all week. I canceled it immediately. Changed passwords. Added security. 10 minutes later, my phone buzzed. Madison. I ignored it. Then a text. You just proved her point. My hands started shaking. Not from fear. From clarity. This wasn't about trust. It wasn't about safety. It was pressure. Strategic. Layered. And calculated. Then a message came from Emily. We need to talk. Alone. Without my sister. For the first time in weeks, I wondered if she was finally seeing it. But I also knew something else. If I walked into that conversation unprepared, I might lose more than my marriage. And that's when it hit me. This wasn't just about saving my relationship. It was about protecting myself from someone who had been waiting years for a crack in it. I didn't sleep the night before I met Emily. I kept replaying the last few weeks in my head. The words. The accusations. The way Madison always seemed one step ahead of every conversation. By morning, I wasn't nervous. I was focused. We met at a small coffee shop halfway between the hotel and the house. Neutral ground. Public. Emily was already sitting at a corner table when I walked in. No Madison. No audience. She looked tired. Dark circles under her eyes. Hair pulled back like she hadn't bothered to fix it. For a second, I saw the woman I married. Then I remembered I'd been asked to leave my own house. I sat down. She didn't reach for me. Thank you for coming, she said softly. I'm here. Talk. She swallowed. I didn't know about the transfer. I held her gaze. You didn't? No. Madison said she was just helping me look at our accounts. I didn't know she tried to move money. Our accounts. Not mine. Ours. I let that sit there. She had access to the device, I said. She initiated it. Emily nodded slowly. She told me you'd probably react exactly like you did. I leaned back. Meaning? Lock everything down. Shut me out. There it was again. The script. And what did you expect me to do? I asked calmly. Let someone move a large amount of money without telling me. She hesitated. I just wanted transparency. You had transparency. You didn't have control. That landed. She looked down at her cup. Silence stretched between us. Not angry. Just heavy. After a minute, she said something that shifted everything. Madison thinks you're going to leave me eventually. I didn't respond. She says men who keep financial independence are planning for divorce. I almost laughed. Emily, I built our savings for retirement. For kids. For emergencies. She says that's what men say before they disappear. I felt something in me cool. This wasn't Emily's voice. It was Madison's fear wrapped in Emily's marriage. Why does Madison get a vote in our marriage? I asked quietly. She looked up at me. She's my sister. And I'm your husband. The words hung there. For the first time, she didn't argue. Has she always felt this way about me? I asked. Emily hesitated. She thinks you've changed me. How? She says I used to be more independent. That now I rely on you. Do you feel that way? I asked. She didn't answer right away. I chose to work part-time, she said finally. You didn't force that. Then why are we rewriting history? Her eyes filled slightly. Because she keeps saying I'm losing myself. I exhaled slowly. Emily, has she ever said she doesn't like me? A long pause. She's always thought you were intense. Intense. Structured. Controlled. And that's bad. She says you make her feel small. The room went quiet. Now we were getting somewhere. She feels small, I repeated. Emily nodded faintly. She compares herself to us. To us. Not to you. To us. Does she compare herself to you? I asked carefully. Emily's eyes flickered. She's always struggled with relationships. They don't last. She says I got lucky. With me? Yes. That was the first honest thing she'd said. I leaned forward slightly. Emily, has Madison ever crossed a boundary with me? Her jaw tightened. Why would you ask that? Because this doesn't feel new. It feels layered. She stared at me for several seconds. Then she looked away. She flirts, Emily said quietly. There it was. She's always flirted. Even before we got married. Did that bother you? At first. Then she said it was a joke. And you believed her? She's my sister. I nodded slowly. And if she's not joking? Emily's head snapped up. She would never. She tried to move our money. That shut her down. We sat in silence again. Finally, she said, she told me if you really loved me, you'd prove it. How? By giving me access. By showing you're not hiding anything. I'm not hiding anything, I said evenly. But I'm also not surrendering control because someone else is whispering in your ear. Tears welled in her eyes. I feel stuck, Ryan. Between what and what? Between my husband and my sister. That hurt more than I expected. There shouldn't be a choice. I let the next words come carefully. Emily, if I give you full access today, Does Madison stop? She didn't answer. You know she won't. Silence confirmed it. She'll find something else, I continued. A new issue. A new fear. A new reason I'm wrong. Emily wiped her cheek. She says you don't trust me. I don't trust her. That was the first time I said it out loud. Her eyes widened. She's trying to create distance between us. That's paranoid, Emily said automatically. Is it? I asked calmly. Who benefits if you don't trust me? She opened her mouth. Closed it. For the first time, doubt crossed her face. Real doubt. My parents think you're controlling too, she said softly. Because Madison talked to them. Emily didn't deny it. She told them she was worried about me. And you? She looked at me. I don't think you're abusive. The word again. But, she added, I don't like feeling like I have to ask. You don't have to ask, I said. You have visibility. You just don't have authority to move everything without discussion. That feels unequal. Marriage isn't about unlimited access. It's about agreed boundaries. She stared at me. I don't want to lose you, she whispered. For the first time in weeks, I believed her. Then we fix this, I said. But we fix it without Madison. She nodded quickly. Too quickly. She's going to be upset. She already is. Emily hesitated. She's been staying at the house because she says you're isolating me. I felt anger rise, but I kept my voice level. She's isolating you from me. The truth landed between us like something fragile. Emily looked shaken. Ryan, what if she's right? That question told me everything. She wasn't sure anymore. I stood up slowly. I'm not moving back in while she's living there. Emily blinked. What? I won't compete with your sister in my own marriage. She looked panicked. So what are you saying? I'm saying you decide who your primary relationship is. Her lips trembled. That's not fair. Neither is being accused of abuse because I won't hand over everything I built. I placed money on the table for my coffee. I love you, I said quietly. But I won't fight your sister for you. I walked out before she could answer. And as I stepped into the cold air, my phone buzzed. A message from Madison. She told me you met. You think you're winning? Winning. That word told me more than anything else. This wasn't about my marriage to her. It was about a game I didn't know I was playing. And Madison clearly thought she was ahead. But something in Emily's eyes told me the board was finally starting to shift. I just didn't know who would make the first real move. And I had a feeling the next one wouldn't be subtle. 3 days after the coffee shop, Emily called me at 11:47 p.m. I almost didn't answer. But something in me knew. Can you come over? She whispered. Is she there? A pause. No. That was new. I grabbed my keys. When I walked into the house, it felt different. Quieter. Not tense. Just empty. Madison's shoes weren't by the door. Her car wasn't in the driveway. Emily was sitting at the kitchen table in the dark, one small lamp on. She looked exhausted. I told her to leave, she said before I even sat down. I didn't react. How'd that go? She cried. Said you were manipulating me. Said you were trying to isolate me from my family. I exhaled slowly. And I told her this is my marriage. The word landed carefully, like she wasn't sure she deserved to say it yet. I sat across from her. What changed? She stared at the table. I asked her something. What? I asked her why she cared so much. That got my attention. She said she was protecting me. And Emily swallowed. And I asked her if she'd feel the same way if I gave her access to our savings instead of you. I blinked. She got angry. Emily continued. Said that was different. Different how? She said she'd never control me like that. I let out a quiet breath. There it was. Emily looked up at me. Ryan, she doesn't want me protected. I didn't say anything. She wants influence. That was the first time Emily had used her own language. Not Madison's. Not borrowed therapy words. Her own. She said something else. Emily added. What? She said if you really loved me, you'd put everything in my name. My jaw tightened. Everything. Not shared. Transferred. And when I said that sounded extreme, Emily whispered. She told me I deserved better than a man who plans an exit. I leaned back in my chair. And you? Emily's eyes met mine. I don't think you're planning to leave. It wasn't dramatic. It wasn't loud. But it was the first solid sentence she'd given me in weeks. I checked something after you left the coffee shop, she said. What? She'd been researching property laws. I stayed still. She'd bookmarked pages about spousal asset transfer. That didn't surprise me. She said it was just information. And you believed her? I wanted to. Silence stretched. I feel stupid, Emily admitted. You're not stupid. I let her talk me into believing you were dangerous. That word again. Dangerous. It sounded ridiculous now, sitting in our quiet kitchen. I need to ask you something, she said. Okay. If I hadn't caught the transfer, would you have told me? Yes. She searched my face. You wouldn't have just assumed I did it? No. Why? Because I know you. Her eyes filled again. For weeks, someone else had been telling her who I was, and she'd almost believed it. I told her she can't stay here anymore, Emily said. Not for a while. That won't go over well. She already told our parents you're dividing the family. I gave a quiet, humorless laugh. I figured. They called me earlier, she said. They think you're controlling me. Because she told them that. Yes. And you? I told them they don't get a vote. That surprised me. Emily wasn't confrontational. She avoided conflict. What did they say? I asked. That I'm choosing a man over my sister. There it was. The line. I studied her face. Are you? She looked at me for a long time. I'm choosing my marriage. That was the first time it sounded firm. We sat in silence. Then she said something that changed the air in the room. She told me she loved you. My heart stopped for half a second. Love me how? She said she's been in love with you since high school. The room felt smaller. She said she settled for watching you because I got you first. I didn't speak. She said if I leave you, she won't make the same mistake. There it was. Not influence. Not protection. Desire. Possession. Years of it. I never encouraged her, I said quietly. I know. Not once. I know. She's my sister, Emily whispered. I never thought. You didn't want to. That wasn't blame. It was truth. Emily nodded slowly. She told me if I stay with you, I'll regret it. That men like you don't stay forever. I leaned forward. Emily, do you believe that? She shook her head. No. It was the first clear answer all night. I need time to untangle this, she admitted. Not from you. From her. I'm not moving back in tomorrow, I said carefully. Not until this is stable. She nodded. That's fair. But I'm not giving up. Her face softened. Neither am I. For the first time since she asked me to leave, I felt something close to hope. Not because everything was fixed, but because the fog was lifting. As I stood to leave, she reached for my hand. Ryan. I paused. She's not going to let this go quietly. I know. She said if she can't have you, she'll make sure neither of us does. That sentence didn't sound dramatic. It sounded calm. Calculated. I looked at my wife standing in our kitchen. The woman I married. And for the first time, I wasn't worried about Emily choosing her sister. I was worried about what Madison would do now that she'd been exposed. Because people who lose influence don't just walk away. They escalate. And something told me the next move wouldn't be about money. It would be personal. And a lot harder to undo. The escalation didn't take long. 2 days after Emily told Madison to leave, I got an email from HR. Subject line, urgent, workplace conduct review. My stomach dropped before I even opened it. There had been a complaint filed against me. Inappropriate behavior at a recent industry conference. I stared at the screen. The same conference Madison had already tried to turn into a rumor. The complaint was anonymous, but it referenced specific details. The city, the client dinner, the hotel bar. Details only someone close to the situation would know. I felt cold. I called my supervisor immediately. He sounded uncomfortable. Ryan, we just have to follow protocol. There's no formal accusation beyond what's written, but we have to investigate. Do you believe it? I asked. He hesitated. I've never had an issue with you. That wasn't an answer, but it was something. I'll cooperate fully, I said, because I had nothing to hide. But I knew exactly where this came from. That night, I drove straight to the house. Emily opened the door before I knocked. She took one look at my face. What happened? I walked inside. Madison filed a complaint at my job. Her face went pale. No. Yes. I explained everything. The email. The details. The timing. Emily sank into a chair. She told me she was going to protect me if you didn't back off. Back off from what? She thinks if you're unstable financially, I'll see the truth. There it was. If she couldn't control the money, she'd attack the income. Emily grabbed her phone. I'm calling her. Don't, I said. She doesn't get to do this. She wants a reaction. Emily's hands were shaking. She's destroying everything. No, I said calmly. She's trying to. That difference mattered. The investigation took 2 weeks. 2 long weeks of interviews, email reviews, expense reports. They pulled security footage from the hotel bar. They spoke to the 50-year-old client who apparently I'd been too friendly with. She laughed when they asked her. Ryan? He talked about his wife all night. That saved me. In the end, HR closed the case. No misconduct, no warning, but the damage lingered. My supervisor called me into his office. "You need to be careful who has access to your personal life," he said gently. I nodded. Message received. When I left work that day, Madison was standing outside my office building, leaning against her car, like she'd been waiting. I didn't break stride. "You're bold," she called out. I kept walking. "You think this is over?" she said louder. I turned slowly. "What do you want?" She smiled like this was casual. "I want you to admit you never deserved her." I stared at her. "You filed a false complaint." I was concerned. "You tried to cost me my job. You'd survive." That told me everything. She didn't care about consequences, just outcomes. "She doesn't love you the way you think," Madison said quietly. "Go home," I replied. "She feels small with you." "That's projection." Her eyes flashed. "You think you're better than us." "No, I just don't let you control me." That hit. For a split second, her mask slipped. "You should have chosen me," she said. There it was. No more pretending. "You were never an option," I said calmly. Her jaw tightened. "If I can't have you," she whispered, "I'll make sure she doesn't either." I didn't respond. I just got in my car and drove away. That night, Emily told her parents everything. Not gently, not vaguely. Everything. The transfer attempt, the complaint, the confession. Her mom cried. Her dad didn't speak for a long time. Madison denied all of it at first. Then she shifted. "You're choosing him over me." Emily didn't flinch this time. "I'm choosing my marriage." Madison stormed out. She hasn't spoken to her since. 2 weeks later, I moved back home. Not triumphantly. Carefully. We set boundaries. Therapy. Joint and individual. Separate financial visibility, not authority. And zero involvement from Madison. For the first time in months, the house felt stable. Quiet. Not tense. Just ours. But consequences don't stop just because you draw boundaries. Madison lost more than access to us. Her parents stopped funding her apartment after they learned about the complaint. Friends began distancing themselves once the story shifted. The narrative she'd built unraveled slowly. She called Emily once. Left a voicemail. "You'll regret this when he leaves you." Emily deleted it without responding. That told me everything I needed to know. A month later, we got a letter from a lawyer. Madison was threatening to sue me for emotional manipulation and coercion. I almost laughed when I read it. But it wasn't funny. It was desperate. And desperate people escalate. I handed the letter to my attorney. He reviewed it, shook his head. "There's nothing here. She's fishing." Should I respond? No. Silence is stronger. So I stayed silent. One night, weeks later, Emily sat across from me at the kitchen table. The same place she'd once packed a bag for me. "I almost lost everything," she said quietly. "No," I replied. "We almost did." She looked at me. "I'm sorry. It wasn't dramatic. It wasn't loud. But it was real. I let someone else narrate our marriage." "Yes. And you didn't leave. I won't be bullied out of my own life." That was the truth. Madison moved out of state a few months later. No goodbye. No apology. Just gone. But before she left, she sent one final message. Not to me. To Emily. "You chose wrong." Emily showed it to me. Then she blocked her. And just like that, the noise stopped. For a while, I thought that was the end. That cutting her off had solved it. But the thing about damage is that it lingers in the cracks. And even though Madison was gone, the doubt she planted didn't disappear overnight. And that's when I realized the hardest part wasn't surviving her. It was rebuilding what she almost broke. The silence after Madison left wasn't peaceful. It was fragile, like walking through a house after a storm. The walls were still standing. The roof hadn't collapsed, but you could see where the wind had pushed, where something had almost broken. Emily and I started therapy 2 weeks after I moved back in. Not because we were falling apart, because we almost had. The first session was awkward. We sat on opposite ends of a couch that had probably heard 1,000 confessions before ours. The therapist asked simple questions. "When did you first feel disconnected?" Emily answered before I could. "When I started listening to someone else more than him." That honesty surprised me. She didn't sugarcoat it. She didn't blame stress or misunderstanding. She said the truth. The harder part came later. "When did you start doubting your husband?" the therapist asked. Emily hesitated. "When Madison said he made her feel small." I stayed quiet. "And why did that matter?" the therapist continued. "Because if he could make her feel small, maybe he was making me feel small too. And I just didn't notice." That was the root of it. Not money. Not control. Comparison. Madison had never felt stable in her own life. Relationships ended. Jobs shifted. Friendships faded. Emily had something steady. And instead of celebrating that, Madison measured herself against it and decided she deserved it more. At home, Emily started changing in small ways. Not dramatic gestures. Boundaries. She stopped discussing our marriage with her parents. Stopped explaining our finances to anyone. Stopped apologizing for choosing her husband. One night she said something I didn't expect. I think she was waiting for you to fail. Why? So she could say she was right. That hit harder than the lawsuit threat, because it meant Madison never believed in us. She was waiting for the crack. And when she couldn't create one, she tried to break the foundation. Months passed. The legal threat from Madison disappeared. No filing. No follow-through. Just noise. Eventually, even that stopped. Her parents reached out quietly. Not to defend her. To apologize. Her father called me one evening. I should have listened sooner, he said. That was all. No dramatic speech. Just accountability. I respected that. Emily and I rebuilt slowly. Trust isn't repaired by declarations. It's rebuilt through patterns. Consistency. She stopped testing my boundaries. I stopped assuming the worst when she hesitated. We shared access in ways that felt balanced. Clear. Agreed. Not forced. The power struggle ended when the audience left. About a year after Madison moved away, we found out Emily was pregnant. When she told me, she was nervous. Like good news might still be fragile. I didn't say anything at first. I just held her. Because we almost didn't make it here. That reality made everything sharper. More intentional. We decided something together before the baby arrived. No triangulation. No third voices in our marriage. If we had conflict, we talked to each other first. Not siblings. Not parents. Each other. It sounds simple. It isn't. It takes discipline to protect something from outside influence. Especially when that influence comes dressed as family. A few weeks before our daughter was born, Madison sent one last email. Not angry. Not threatening. Short. I hope you're happy. That was it. No apology. No ownership. Just distance. Emily read it. Closed her laptop. Didn't respond. That was growth. Not revenge. Not punishment. Just silence. When I held my daughter for the first time, I understood something clearly. Influence is powerful. It can shape belief, twist perception, even fracture trust. But it only works if you give it authority. Madison had authority because we allowed her into spaces that weren't hers. Once that door closed, she had nothing to stand on. One night, months later, Emily and I were sitting at the kitchen table again. The same table where she once packed a bag for me. The same table where we nearly ended. Our daughter was asleep upstairs. The house was quiet. Do you ever think about what would have happened if I'd chosen her? She asked. I looked at her. You didn't. But if I had. I leaned back. I would have walked away. She nodded slowly. I know. That was the difference. Before, she wasn't sure. Now she was. I don't hate Madison. I don't even think about her much anymore. She was never the real threat. The threat was doubt. And doubt only grows in silence. The moment Emily questioned the narrative instead of absorbing it, everything shifted. Madison didn't lose because I fought her. She lost because Emily stopped listening. And in the end, that's the quiet revenge no one sees. Not humiliation. Not destruction. Just exclusion. She tried to step into a marriage that wasn't hers. And she ended up outside all of it. Family dinners. Birthdays. Milestones. Gone. Sometimes I think back to that night in the hotel parking lot. Confused. Blindsided. Almost convinced I was the villain in someone else's story. If I'd reacted emotionally. If I'd screamed. Or surrendered. Or handed over everything just to prove something. I would have confirmed the narrative she wanted. Instead, I stayed still. Calm. Boundaried. That's what saved us. Not fighting harder. Not loving louder. Just refusing to be manipulated into chaos. Madison once told Emily, you chose wrong. Maybe she still believes that. But every morning when I wake up next to my wife, every time I hear my daughter laugh in the next room, I know something for sure. The only person who chose wrong was the one who thought she could break something steady just because she wanted it. And when she realized she couldn't, she had nothing left to stand on. Not even her own story.